the psychology of vocal fry is I have no air coming out of my body to communicate with you. I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to you. Now, can you see in a business environment what a dreadful thing that is to do? Many salespeople will do that at the end of a sentence. And what that does is it removes the commitment from the sentence, which basically says, I want to go home. I don't even want to talk to you. So we start the sentence and then go into vocal fry. And people will say, oh, well, I ran out of breath. Here's the tip, Nina. You never run out of breath. You only run into tension.
Welcome to Season 5 of Manage Self, Lead Others with host Nina Sunday. This season, we're going deeper into AI, innovation, and the invisible patterns that shape how we lead. Each episode, bold thinkers join us to explore how to lead with intention, elevate team culture, and stay future ready. The future of leadership starts with the questions we ask.
Dr Louise Mahler started out singing opera on the great stages of Europe. But here's the thing. What captivates a theatre audience is exactly what helps a leader command a boardroom. Today, she's a top 30 global guru in body language, vocal intelligence and communication, helping leaders find their voice and own the room. Dr. Louise Mahler is author of the best-selling book Gravitas, was recently awarded Keynote Speaker of the Year, and is the expert that media invites in for an interview to find out what the body language of someone in the news is really saying. Welcome, Dr. Louise Mahler.
Hi, Nina.
So, You've got this wonderful book, Gravitas, but we see you on television all the time talking about the body language and the vocal presence or lack of celebrities when they're featured in the news. But what's wrong with communication today?
Nina, everything is wrong with communication because we've left out the most important part, which is delivery. And from ancient times, they knew that delivery was the most critical element of our communication. And we just left it out. And so having left it out for the last few decades, what happens is we've lost the knowledge and now we're blind to it.
And do you think PowerPoint has sort of contributed to that because they rely on PowerPoint to carry the delivery?
Partly it's PowerPoint, but I think it's more intense than that. I think that we lost gestures, which were a huge part of communication after World War II, and we lost it because of Hitler, Mussolini. They used extreme gestures, so it became very out of fashion. And so we left that out. Then we have body language came in the 1970s, 80s, and body language told us that communication was all about the perception of others. How do others perceive you? And actually it's not. Communication from age-old times has been about bringing your best to every engagement. How other people see you is really interesting, but all the time we're working to bring our best, not necessarily to pander to the perception of others. And so we've lost the information and we're blind to it now.
And I think it was Cicero that said, it's not about how to be understood, it's how not to be misunderstood.
He did say that, you're right. Listen to you. I love Cicero. I love Cicero, who actually was murdered. And Cicero had a framework for everything that he did. He knew how to handle every situation and wrote about it.
And I felt very privileged when I was standing next to the rock that he used to present at in the Forum in Rome. Because I read his life story when I was very young and it impressed me greatly. Yeah. So, of course, that's all about rhetoric, isn't it? And your book talks about rhetoric.
Yes, well, there's a misunderstanding with the term rhetoric because Aristotle wrote about words and how to debate. And he said in his book, that's my area of rhetoric. Today, what we do is we associate rhetoric with what Aristotle did. Rhetoric is far broader than that. Rhetoric is 5 canons. There are 5 canons of rhetoric. And number 2 is arrangement. That was Aristotle's area. But there are 5, the last of which is delivery, and the one they say was the most important. And rhetoric and the system of rhetoric is how we achieve gravitas, which is the manner of trust and respect.
It's all about trust. Because if your client doesn't trust you, if your audience doesn't trust you, they won't take on board the information you're wanting to share.
No, they won't. And I'll tell you what is fascinating with Gravitas is people think it's about seriousness, about weightiness, and it's not. It's equally weighted with humour, wit, levity. And in fact, Cicero was said to be the funniest man in ancient Rome. He was a great orator. He was also consul of Rome. He was also head of the army and the funniest man in Rome. Funny, funny, funny. Can we be funny? And funny is an important part of building trust.
Well, you know, sometimes when I'm presenting, I get, 30 people and they just seem to hit on my humour. And I go, wow, I could actually play along a little bit more because they're getting my humour. So
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a two-way street there, because you've got to kind of touch on humour without telling jokes. It's not about joke telling. Yeah.
It's having it in your heart, Nina.
Yeah.
You know, last Friday I went to do a keynote, and it was a very serious keynote with hundreds and hundreds of CFOs. And there was a mix up with the timing, and I was on an hour earlier than I was supposed to be on. And I always arrive an hour earlier, and they go, Louise, you're on. And it was quite a dramatic situation where they're rushing me on. So what did I do? I found it funny. So I walked on stage laughing, and, you know, it just took off from there, Nina. We just had a great atmosphere right from the start.
Yes.
And we were just on fire for the whole hour.
Well, that's right. It's almost like canned laughter. I mean, laughter starting early will actually continue on because you've hit their funny bone.
Yeah. Well, what is laughter? Laughter is the bouncing of the diaphragm, which means that your breath is free, which means your body is free. It is a critical part of releasing people and getting their trust. Only people that trust you will laugh with you.
So with Gravitas and executive presence, do some people just have it, or can it be learned?
Oh, goodness me, it's always learnt, Nina. It's either learnt from parents at a young age, from school, from a mentor, from the university, from your own experience. It's learnt, whether it was learnt in an environment you didn't know you were learning it, or whether you were learning it consciously, but the same end is there, and it is all learnable. Of course, there are some people who pick it up themselves, and I like to say they're the psychopaths.
Oh, I see. Yes, because the ones that really don't care about other people sometimes rise to the top.
Well, they're very observant with what manipulates people, what people want, and then they do that.
Yes, yes. Well, that's kind of another conversation, Dr. Williams. But some of the things that I've heard you talk about is really about not only about where you position yourself when you're presenting and maybe moving from spot to spot, but you also can create anchors, as we call them, in the air using gestures. You know, that's the positive, that's the negative, but you always go back to that same anchor for that same type of information.
I really believe in that. And the ancients actually had a term for it. They called it architecturally designing your material. So you're building a house. Where is your different bit of information? And so we can actually move the body to different places, or when we've moved the body, we can actually have information in different places with our hands in some way. So all of it is, where is the information? Gestures and movement aren't just gestures and movement. They're obviously visual interest for the people we're speaking to. Much more than that. We have to move to be able to breathe. Standing still is a suicide attempt. Number 2 reason. Number 3 reason is that actually all of this is a memory technique, and we've lost the skills of memory. And people are standing at lecterns or reading, and they're going, I have to read because how will I remember it? Well, guess what? There are memory techniques. And when you were at that forum in Rome, you might not have realized, but they did presentations for hours and hours and hours. Right. They never had notes. And they would use not only where they move and where their hands go, they actually use different pillars, different rooms, different directions, pointing north, pointing south, to actually depict different things. So Yeah, there's a lot we can do other than stand still with our hands by our sides.
Well, exactly. And of course, you don't want gestures all the time. You'd
No.
sometimes rest into kind of a neutral stance, would you? So occasionally?
Today, there are three rules of gestures. One is that they are always congruent. So
Yes.
there are some set congruent gestures, such as that's the future. But if I was saying something like moving forward, I might do that gesture. That might make sense. But I made that up one. It's not a set gesture. So gestures are always congruent, whether they're set or you're making them up. They make sense. Gestures are non-repeat. So a lot of people will do a gesture and repeat it. And
Oh, then it becomes a mannerism.
yeah, and if the rule becomes more than twice, it's meaningless and you're wasting your time. And the
Yeah.
other rule of gesture, the third rule, is that when you have a gesture, you hold that gesture until you have another gesture and then move the
Right.
gesture. What we tend to do today is snap in, snap in, snap in, snap in, snap in. And it doesn't work.
And I'm just going to alert to the people who are listening to the audio version. Go to YouTube, go to Manage Self Lead Others on YouTube and watch Dr. Louise's episode at this point in time where she is demonstrating gestures so beautifully.
Thank you.
And you talk about breathing too. You mentioned the diaphragm a moment ago, but you talk about breathing. Why does it matter so much?
Nina, if the breath doesn't work, go home. You see, breathing isn't just breathing. When air comes out of our body, and you vibrate the vocal folds, that's your voice. And if body is a critical communicator, voice is the second most important communicator. So having your breathing working is critical. And this means that your best friend, let's make this a mat, my diaphragm, your diaphragm actually cuts you in half. This is supposed to be loose. If
Yes.
my diaphragm is not loose, it's held. Now I'm putting energy into my upper body. It's going to affect my voice, but it's also going to give me the impression I'm going to start throwing my head. And this is aggression. Anything in the upper body is aggression.
Oh,
My background, of course, it's my PhDs in leadership communication, and I've been doing that for decades. But I did sing opera seriously
yes, you
for a
did.
decade. And witness the best in the world being beside them. And breathing, if you don't have breathing right, go home.
And do you agree that if you are going to be standing up in front of a meeting, that maybe to just before you go in to do a few vocal warm-ups would help as well as breathing?
You see, Nina, the thing is that the voice doesn't need warming up. The voice
Right.
is warm all the time.
Oh, it's
What
your mouth and your lips.
Well, what needs warming up is your system that supports the voice.
Oh,
So
right.
if you're singing, of course, you're doing exercises all day, 7 days a week. That's what you have to do. But for speaking that most people do, there's no need for critical warm-ups. It's just kick the diaphragm free. And the exercise I use to do that is what I call a kapalbhati, which is where we do a breath out. For the breath out, the stomach goes in. We do a breath out, kick the diaphragm free. That's all you need. Get the arms off the body. You're ready to go.
Simple.
It is
That's
simple.
nice. That's
It's that
nice.
complicated.
Now, a lot of people hate public speaking or say they do because they don't have a fix for nerves and they have self-doubt. Have you got a fix for that?
I do. I do. Confidence. People are all
Right.
saying, I want confidence. I want confidence. Well, there's a quote by Julius Caesar that says, without training, there is no knowledge. Without knowledge, there is no confidence. And another phrase that I have is, confidence is competence. So you have to build the competence. So people come to me and I'll say to them, do you have a framework for this difficult conversation that you need? They go, oh no, I just speak off the top of my head. And then I say, are you thinking about your voice and how that works? They go, oh no, it just, it is. And then I go, have you thought about your body or where you might anchor things? No. And I think, I'd be nervous too if I had no idea what I was doing. Like, how are you going in there when you're making it up on the spot? It's ridiculous. So we
You know,
just
what
have
they forget is
yeah.
that all the great actors all spent years in acting school. They may have had a natural talent to get them in there, but
Mm.
because what they say is, on a good day, natural talent will arise. But on a bad day, you fall back on the craft.
Yes. Do you know I've got a phrase there that people might enjoy, which is the amateur practices till they get it right. The professional practices till they can't get it wrong.
Well, that mirrors Cicero. Really, that's a really good quote. That's really good.
Right.
Because the other thing is, what I learned, I had a few never again experiences when I was a student and I had to do a speech. I didn't rehearse it. I didn't even prepare it. I just thought, oh, I'll just, and you know what I did?
Most people are
I
doing.
defaulted to speaking at twice the speed.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Oh, yeah, that'll work. Not. Um, but you brought up a great point about practice, which is people think the practice is just before. And
Mm.
I worked with a group, I remember, who once said to me, "Oh, we've spent 6 weeks rehearsing this presentation." And I'm like, who paid for that? Not necessary. It should be able to be together in the moment. You tell me there's 10,000 people across the road, Louise, you're on. I'm on. I've got it written by the time I get down in the lift. The practice happens back in life.
Yes.
We do it now, not just before a presentation. You
Well,
have
you can actually practice your presentation in a conversation with a friend over the phone
you
where you're not
bet,
even looking at any notes.
you bet. You
It's making sure that all the information you want to share is internalized so it comes out authentically and naturally, conversationally. Would you agree?
Totally. It's
Mm.
all got to sound like it's improvised in the moment because it somehow is improvised in the
Mm.
moment within a framework that you've got in your mind. And break the framework, go crazy, but at least know you've broken the framework. And if you
Yes.
do break the framework, there's a way where you can walk away and then come back to your framework so that again, you're guiding your mind with your movement. Always knowing to some extent what you're doing and improvising within that.
Now, I featured an episode in my podcast about how metaphors win buy-in, and you commented quite positively on my LinkedIn post about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the use of metaphor?
Nina, we underestimate the power of the unconscious mind. And metaphor, of course, is a critically important skill for hypnotism, for really communicating with the unconscious mind. So I do myself, and I recommend to others, that we do some sort of what I call a creative link, which is often a metaphor at the beginning. Of course, it's not just something isolated and out there. It must link to your message. What is your message? Now, is there a metaphor for that message that you could share? Hypnotically, what this does is it scrambles the brain of the person who hears it. Like a punch in the head, it hits the sides of the head and you get a moment of confusion. So if my metaphor says that you must wear a coral colored shirt, and then I say, and our mind is like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about here.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I try to link it back,
Yeah.
to some sort of message.
Yes. And of course, it can become a thematic device that you can open with and close with, which is rather nice.
Used throughout,
Yes.
absolutely.
And it's visual, which if you get people thinking visually in their mind, one, it creates memory, but also it keeps them engaged.
Well, one of the metaphors I discovered 2,200 years ago was the autostereogram. And the autostereogram is I'm just finding a picture for you. The autostereogram is what they call a magic eye picture. And a magic eye picture
I remember them.
looks like an abstract, but actually when you refocus the eyes, you can see a different picture.
Yes.
And you can see in this particular autostereogram, you can see there is a shark behind there. There's a shark when you refocus the eyes. And that can be really useful metaphor for people who perhaps are working with change and saying everyone out there in your individual departments has a certain vision of what we're trying to achieve. But that vision is giving us an abstract picture. And what we need to do today is come together, refocus our eyes and see the real picture behind that.
Yes.
And
to get under the surface and also to get a 3D view.
why
Yeah.
not? And the thing is that the metaphor that is not debatable. It's actually it is. That's true. You refocus the eyes, you get a different picture. So why would I be denying that? That's not what we're going to do today when we're discussing our transformational change.
Absolutely.
One of the ways that we close to protect ourselves. Another way, of course, is at the throat. We might close the throat in some way, put the tongue down the throat or close the throat. And then we can stop our diaphragm and jam our diaphragm. If we do that, we don't get enough air out of our body, and then we get a vocal sound that is called vocal fry. That's called vocal fry. And that is all caused by the fact that there's no air coming out of my body. All of these...
I can feel you holding your breath there.
Yeah. And all of these young girls do vocal fry a lot today. They think it's very sexy because the Kardashians do it. Britney Spears does it. So they imitate idols.
I see.
The psychology of vocal fry is, I have no air coming out of my body to communicate with you. I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to you. Now, can you see in a business environment what a dreadful thing that is to do? And many salespeople will do that at the end of a sentence. So I'll say that again. Many salespeople will do that at the end of a sentence. And what that does is it removes the commitment from the sentence, which basically says, I want to go home. I don't even want to talk to you. So we start the sentence and then go into vocal fry. And people will say, oh, well, I ran out of breath. Here's the tip, Nina. You never run out of breath. You only run into tension.
Oh, that's nice. Quotable quote. Look, we're sort of coming to the end of our time, and I will ask you how people can work with you. But first of all, if someone has one big meeting tomorrow, what's the one thing they could do before they walk into the meeting?
Breathe out, not in, breathe out.
Breathe out.
Throw your elbows off your body. Open your body and show your palms, the gesture of trust.
That's nice. Show your palms, open palm. Well, how can people work with you? Because you work virtually with clients all around the world?
I do, yes. Sometimes at 3 a.m, that at time when time is different. But I do coaching online, obviously, and face-to-face. But I also do keynotes, and I do those online or face-to-face. That's our world today, isn't it?
Yes.
And I work with exec teams and groups as well to work on the work that they know and build the skills, to analyze what they're doing, build the new skills, and then practice until we get it right. And
do you have a closing thought that you'd like to give everyone that's listening?
Delivery. Get out there and learn about delivery.
Absolutely. Well, and replay this episode because you get a lot of tips that you can apply. So thank you so much, Dr. Louise Mahler. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This episode we were speaking with Dr. Louise Mahler, author of the best-selling book Gravitas. We had a delightful conversation about delivering with confidence, gestures that convey trust and respect, which is what Gravitas is about. Until next time, bye for now.
Manage Self, Lead Others has launched the book. It's available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. Not just a collection of transcripts, Nina Sunday adds her own reflections about each guest conversation. If you're looking for a conference speaker or workshop facilitator who can up-level your team in Australia or around the world, visit brainpowertraining.com.au or ninasunday.com. Until you tune in next time.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.